In the history of human warfare, due to changes in technology and tactics, many weapons and equipment once prevailed for hundreds of years, and then disappeared completely, becoming history. Today, we will briefly discuss the story of siege artillery. The concept of siege artillery prevailed in Europe and Central Asia and disappeared shortly after World War II. It had been flourishing for hundreds of years before that. If cannons shattered the knights and castles of Europe, then siege artillery must have put in a lot of effort. At that time, artillery could be divided into field artillery, siege artillery, and defensive artillery. Field artillery was mostly small and light artillery that could be maneuvered and operated with the army, with small power and short range. Defensive artillery was generally installed in various fortresses, focusing on high power and long range, especially coastal defense artillery. These equipments required many years of management. At that time, artillery production was complicated, and it often took several months for the molds to dry completely before the artillery could be produced and used on the spot. Siege artillery was also a type of large artillery, used to attack fortresses and field positions, similar to a defensive artillery with certain maneuverability. The role of siege artillery was to destroy strong defensive fortifications. There was no fixed form, and large cannons, howitzers, and mortars could all be considered siege artillery. The use of siege artillery depended on the situation. Most of them were large-caliber artillery, heavy and cumbersome, and it was time-consuming and labor-intensive to produce them. Some were produced in the rear and then transported to the front lines, while others were temporarily produced on the front lines, often targeting protracted siege battles, such as when the Ottoman Empire besieged Constantinople and produced the Orban cannon from the rear. This is the same giant cannon depicted in the movie, Conquest 1453. Many famous siege artillery appeared in medieval Europe. In addition to the aforementioned Orban cannon, there were also the Dardanelles cannon, the Tsar cannon, etc., which could all fire huge stone balls with a diameter of over half a meter, with considerable power. By the 19th century, siege artillery mostly consisted of long-barreled cannons or howitzers. With the widespread use of breech-loading technology in the latter half of the 19th century, the caliber of siege artillery became smaller. This was due to the progress of the chemical industry, which allowed the power of the shells to increase day by day. A small amount of propellant could make the ammunition fly farther. However, to withstand the high breech pressure, siege artillery remained heavy. Siege artillery from this period, such as the Austro-Hungarian Empire's M80 12 cm siege artillery, which entered service in 1881, had a caliber of 120 mm, weighed 1.7 tons, and had a range of nearly 8,000 meters, making it much smaller than the monster-level cannons of the Middle Ages. Of course, there were also large-caliber siege artillery during this time, such as the Russian M18 77 11-inch mortar, a 280 mm caliber cannon, and the M1915 305 mm howitzer manufactured by Skoda before World War I, which also fell into the category of siege artillery. From the concept of siege artillery, many howitzers and field artillery developed before and after World War I could be classified as siege artillery. The famous Karl Gerhardt and Gustav railway guns should also be considered siege artillery. During World War II, many fortresses and defensive lines suffered heavy artillery bombardment, with famous examples including the Sevastopol fortress, where both sides used heavy artillery to shell each other. The castles had long disappeared, and after the end of World War II, countries around the world abandoned traditional reinforced concrete fortresses. Siege artillery, which existed for the purpose of storming fortifications, lost its significance. In addition, with the changing nature of warfare, few countries now equip themselves with super-large caliber artillery. On the contrary, 150 mm level howitzers are very popular, and for attacking some underground targets, there are weapons such as bunker buster bombs.